Hey everyone, and welcome to this study on how to handle questions using Jesus' debate tactics for effective faith conversions. Today we're diving deep into exactly how you can navigate those really tough questions and actually keep the upper hand in your spiritual conversations. We're going to be unpacking some incredibly practical insights sourced directly from Wes Huff's fascinating presentation over on the Elijah's Yoke channel. So let's just dive right into it.
You know that feeling, right? We've all been there. You're having a totally normal conversation, and out of nowhere, someone presses you on your faith. Instantly, you get that deer in the headlights panic of being put on the spot. You completely freeze up, your mind just goes blank, and suddenly you feel like you need a doctorate in theology just to avoid sounding foolish. It is a terrible feeling, but as you'll see in this study, it's actually completely avoidable. Here is our roadmap for today. We'll start with the fear of spiritual conversations, then look at the burden of proof, break down the anatomy of an argument, jump into a masterclass on Jesus' debate tactics, learn how to question the questioner, and finally, look at how you can stay in the driver's seat. All right, part 1, the fear of spiritual conversations, and how we move from being defensive to being prepared. So when faced with an aggressive question, human nature totally kicks in. A lot of people just panic and jump straight into intense argument mode. People throw out assertions all the time, right? Things like, you can't trust the Bible, or science has disproven Christianity, or Christianity is intolerant. And when hit with sudden claims exactly like these, average Christians often make a massive strategic mistake. They try to be a walking Christian encyclopedia, scrambling to answer every single accusation thrown at them all at once. They just instantly jump into defense mode. Let's look at part 2, the burden of proof, which is essentially the golden rule of debate. You see, stepping instantly into response mode is actually falling right into a conversational trap. And overcoming it comes down to this one tactical rule. Whoever makes the claim bears the burden of proof. As Wes Huff points out, this is absolutely crucial. If someone else makes a massive claim about your faith, saying it's completely irrational to believe in God, for instance, it is absolutely not your job to frantically scramble and disprove them. It is their job to prove their standard. Do not let yourself get thrust into a defensive position when you aren't the one making the initial claim. Section 3, the anatomy of an argument. We have to learn how to identify assertions versus actual arguments. To apply that burden of proof rule in real time, you have to be able to tell the difference between someone just casually tossing out an assertion on social media and someone actually building a sound logical argument. Think of it like building a house. An assertion, it's just a claim floating in midair. It's literally like a roof with absolutely no walls holding it up. But a true argument is completely different. That's a foundation built on data, rationale, and evidence. Because we live in an era of snappy social media posts, people constantly throw out assertions, those roofs floating in midair, and they fully expect you to treat them like fully built arguments. You have to recognize when a claim has zero foundation. Which brings us to Section 4, a literal masterclass in Jesus' debate tactics, focusing on the famous Matthew 22 trap. Let's see how this works in the real world. Wes Huff highlights this amazing historical example from Matthew 22, where the Pharisees and Herodians attempt to trap Jesus with a highly politically charged issue. The trap is set with this very specific question. Is it lawful to give a poll tax to Caesar or not? Now, what is really brilliant and tricky about this question is that it's a perfectly engineered trap. Rome was heavily subjugating the Jewish people at the time. If Jesus says, yes, pay the tax, he immediately alienates the oppressed Jewish people who see the tax as funding their own suppression. But if he says no, he instantly provokes the Roman authorities, giving them a clear reason to arrest him. It is a complete lose-lose scenario. But instead of answering directly and falling for it, Jesus executes this brilliant strategic sequence. First, the trap is set. Then, Jesus asks them to hand him a Roman coin. By them eagerly producing this coin with Caesar's image on it, right there in the temple, Jesus instantly exposes their hypocrisy. And finally, he completely redefines the entire premise of the debate. He doesn't just answer, he takes the steering wheel. He drops this legendary response, "Give to Caesar what belongs to Caesar, give to God what belongs to God." By shifting the focus away from Roman taxation and toward the much deeper issue of human beings bearing the image of God, Jesus neutralized the trap entirely. He proved something incredibly profound. The right answer to a wrong question is still a wrong answer.
Part 5, questioning the questioner, or in other words, flipping the script. The core tactical takeaway here is that apologetics isn't just about handing out a bunch of answers. Sometimes you absolutely must question the questioner or challenge the fundamental premise of the question itself. Think about this classic childhood playground trap. Does your mom know you're stupid? If you say no, you're admitting you're stupid, and she just doesn't know. If you say yes, you're stupid, and she knows it. The trap is baked right into the premise. Much like this playground trick, many modern objections to faith are built on fundamentally flawed premises. You literally cannot answer them directly without looking foolish. You have to challenge the question itself.
And finally, Section 6, staying in the driver's seat using practical application. So how do we actually do this? When thinking about how to handle questions using Jesus' debate tactics for effective faith conversions, we need real-world tactics. When someone throws out a common objection like, it's illogical to believe the Bible, your tactical response should simply be, well, what do you mean by illogical and what do you mean by the Bible? As Wes Huff breaks down, asking, what do you mean by that, forces the challenger to provide their foundation. Often, this reveals that they're attacking a concept, like some imaginary sky daddy floating on a cloud, that you don't even believe in anyway. You totally save yourself from defending a false premise. Let's look at the number 66 to put this into perspective. If someone broadly attacks the Bible, asking them what they mean forces them to reckon with the actual reality of the text. They have to acknowledge that it's an intricate collection of 66 separate books, written over 1,600 years on 3 continents by nearly 40 authors. It requires them to be specific, rather than just throwing out a broad, unsupportable assertion. Let's pull all of this together into a quick tactical summary. First, do not blindly accept the premise of a conversational trap. Second, ask clarifying questions to expose the foundation of their argument. Third, make them bear the burden of proof for their own claims. And finally, and honestly most importantly, always do this by speaking with gentleness and respect, just like it says in 1 Peter 3:15. By questioning the question, you stay in control, you avoid defending a straw man, and you create a genuinely respectful space for real spiritual dialogue. I really want to leave you with this crucial reminder. The right answer to the wrong question is still the wrong answer. Never forget that trying to directly answer a fundamentally flawed question only validates its false premise. You must always shift the foundation back to the truth, just like Jesus did. Before we wrap up, I highly encourage you to check out the source channel for this study, Elijah Zielk, where you can see Wes Huff's full presentation for yourself. A link is below in the description box, so definitely go check them out and subscribe to their channel. As we finish up this study, I want you to think about this. The next time you go out and engage with others, what loaded question will you absolutely refuse to answer directly? And, more importantly, how are you going to use these tactics to flip the script and uncover the real truth?